He was just a little boy, quietly eating pancakes in a small-town diner. But when a cruel bully slapped him across the face for looking at him wrong, the diner went silent. No one knew who the boy's father was. No one knew that the man sipping espresso in a black car outside was the most feared Mafia boss in the entire city. And tonight, justice would come, not with guns, but with something far more powerful. The morning sunlight streamed to the cracked blinds of Miller's Diner, a small-town spot where everyone knew everyone. The smell of bacon and coffee filled the air. At the corner booth sat Eli, an 8-year-old boy with big brown eyes and curly hair, quietly eating his pancakes. His mother, Angela, worked in the kitchen, wiping counters, humming softly to the radio. It was just another calm morning, until Chad Benson walked in. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a smirk that could freeze blood, Chad was the kind of man who thought the world owed him something. Everyone in town knew his father owned half the construction sites around. He ordered coffee, barked at the waitress, then noticed Eli sitting alone. The boy's gaze had accidentally drifted up for a second, just a shy child's curiosity. But Chad didn't like that. "What are you staring at, kid?" he said, stepping closer. Eli shook his head, frightened. "And nothing, sir." Chad scoffed. "Don't lie to me." Before anyone could react, Chad slapped the boy across the face hard. The diner froze. Forks stopped clinking. The cook turned off the stove. Eli's cheek turned red, tears forming instantly. Angela ran out from the kitchen, screaming, "What did you just do to my son?" But Chad only laughed. "Teach your boy some manners." He tossed a few crumpled bills on the counter and swaggered out, proud, fearless, untouchable. Angela held her son, shaking. "It's okay, baby, it's okay." But Eli whispered, trembling, "Mom, Daddy said if anyone ever hurts us, I should tell him." Angela's heart stopped. She looked toward the window and froze. Outside, across the street, a black Mercedes sat idling. In the driver's seat, wearing a dark suit and sunglasses, was Marcus Kane, Eli's father, and the man everyone whispered about in town, the one nobody dared to cross, the boss of the Kane family. The black Mercedes door opened with a slow, deliberate creak. Marcus Kane stepped out, tall, dressed in a crisp charcoal suit, every movement measured. His presence alone felt heavier than the air around him. The street quieted. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. He wasn't just a man. He was a storm wearing a tie. Inside the diner, Angela's breath hitched. She knew that look on her husband's face, the one he wore only when he was about to handle something personally. "Marcus," she whispered under her breath, afraid to even say his name too loud. Eli wiped his tears as his father walked in. The doorbell chimed softly, the sound slicing through the silence like a blade. Every head turned. Even the cook froze mid-step. Marcus's sharp eyes found his son. He knelt, gently touching the red mark on Eli's cheek. A father's hand trembling not with fear, but rage contained. "Who did this?" he asked quietly. Eli's small voice quivered. "The man who left, Daddy. He said I was staring at him." Marcus's jaw clenched. He looked at Angela, who nodded silently toward the window, where Chad Benson's truck was still parked down the street, the man laughing with a few friends outside the hardware store. Marcus stood up. His voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "Angela, take Eli home." "Marcus, please don't." But he was already walking toward the door. Outside, as Marcus crossed the road, the diner staff peeked from the windows. No one dared interfere. They all knew who Marcus Kane was. Across the street, Chad Benson's truck. Chad was still bragging, laughing about teaching that little brat a lesson. He didn't even notice Marcus approach until a shadow fell over him. "You the man who hit my boy?" Marcus asked, voice low, smooth and deadly calm. Chad turned, annoyed. "Who the hell are you?" Marcus smiled faintly. His father. The smile didn't reach his eyes. Chad snorted, tried to act tough. "Look, pal, your kid needs to learn respect. I don't care who you are." He didn't get to finish. Marcus stepped forward, grabbing Chad by the collar so fast his coffee cup flew from his hand and shattered on the pavement. "Respect," Marcus said. almost whispering, is something you earn, not something you demand from children. Chad tried to pull away, but Marcus leaned closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You think being big makes you powerful? You think people fear you because of your name? You have no idea what fear is. Then, releasing him suddenly, Marcus fixed his suit and stepped back. By sunrise tomorrow, he said quietly, you'll understand what you've done. And with that, he turned and walked away. Chad stood frozen, trying to laugh it off in front of his friends. But his voice cracked. Who even is that guy? One of them asked. Another whispered. That's Marcus Kane, the Kane family. You've heard of him, right? Chad's face went pale. Everyone had heard of him. The man whose name was never spoken loudly. The man who ran half the city's underground network. And the man whose family was off limits. That night, as rain poured down and thunder rolled over the skyline, Marcus sat in his office, the city lights glowing behind him. His right-hand man, Dante, stood beside him. You want me to take care of the Benson kid? Dante asked carefully. Marcus's expression was unreadable. He touched my son, Dante. You know what that means? Dante nodded. Yes, boss. Marcus stared at the whiskey glass in his hand. He could see Eli's reflection in the amber liquid, his innocent face, the fear in his eyes. His heart twisted. Wait, he said finally. Not yet. Dante frowned. Not yet. Marcus stood, walking toward the rain-streaked window. Sometimes, Dante, revenge isn't about bullets. Sometimes it's about making a man see what he's done. That night, the order went out. Quietly, efficiently. Every Kane associate in town got the word. No one touches Chad Benson. Not yet, but by morning, his life would never be the same. By dawn, the town was already buzzing with whispers. People said Marcus Kane's men were seen near the Benson warehouse. Others said Chad's father, Robert Benson, had made a few desperate phone calls in the middle of the night to lawyers, cops, even old friends in city council. No one picked up. No one ever interfered in Kane family matters. At the Benson residence, 9 a.m., Chad woke up to the sound of his father shouting downstairs. He stumbled out of bed, his head throbbing from a hangover. What's going on? He mumbled. Robert turned, face pale. You idiot. You have any idea who that man was yesterday? Chad frowned. Some punk's dad, who cares? Robert slammed his hand on the table. That was Marcus Kane. He runs half the city's businesses, and the other half are terrified of him. Chad blinked. So what? You think he'll kill me over a kid? Robert glared. He doesn't need to kill you. He just has to make one phone call, and you'll lose everything. Our contracts, our protection, our name. You don't understand the kind of power men like him have. Chad laughed nervously, trying to hide his fear. You're overreacting, Dad. But when he looked outside the window, his smirk faded. A black car was parked across the street. No one got out. No one moved. It just sat there like a shadow waiting for something. Later that day, the diner again. Angela returned to work, nervous but silent. She kept glancing at the door, praying Marcus wouldn't do something rash. Eli sat in the back booth, drawing quietly, pretending everything was normal. Then the doorbell chimed. Marcus walked in, calm as ever, wearing the same dark suit, his presence filling the room like a storm cloud. Angela stood frozen. Marcus, please don't cause trouble. The boy's seen enough. Marcus looked at her gently. I'm not here for trouble. I'm here for closure. He turned to the waitress. Tell Chad Benson to meet me here. He knows where to find me. The waitress hesitated. You think he'll come? Marcus's lips curved slightly. He will. A few hours later, the rain started again. Chad finally walked into the diner. His jacket was soaked, his hands shaking. He looked around and spotted Marcus sitting in the corner, sipping black coffee. Sit, Marcus said without looking up. Chad obeyed. For a long moment, there was only silence, the hum of the neon sign outside, the quiet drip of rain from his coat onto the floor. Marcus finally looked up. You slapped my boy. Chad swallowed. I was out of line. I didn't know he was yours. I'm sorry. Marcus nodded slowly. You didn't know he was mine, but you knew he was someone's. You still hit him. You still thought it was okay to hurt someone weaker than you. Chad lowered his gaze. Marcus continued, voice calm but razor sharp. I've spent my life surrounded by men like you. Big talkers. Bullies who think fear is power. But real power, Chad, real power is when you can destroy someone and you choose not to. Chad blinked, confused. You're not gonna? Marcus leaned forward, eyes dark but steady. You think death is punishment? No. I want you to live with what you did. To remember the face of a child you hit every time you look in the mirror. He slid a small folded paper across the table. Chad hesitated, then opened it. It was a photo of Eli smiling with a note written beneath. The boy you hurt forgave you. Now forgive yourself by becoming better. Chad's throat tightened. He didn't know whether to cry or run. Marcus stood up, buttoned his jacket, and said quietly, the world doesn't need more monsters, Chad. It needs men who learn. And with that, he left the diner. Outside, Marcus stood under the rain, breathing heavily. Dante's car pulled up beside him. You let him go? Dante asked, surprised. Marcus nodded. Yeah. Dante frowned. Boss, that's not like you. Marcus looked at the diner's window. Eli was inside, watching him with innocent eyes. That boy doesn't need a killer for a father, Marcus said softly. He needs a man who knows when enough is enough. Dante said nothing. He simply nodded, understanding that this was not weakness. It was evolution. Marcus Kane had spent his life in shadows. But today, he'd stepped into the light. The rain had stopped. The streets glistened under the orange glow of the setting sun. Marcus Kane drove in silence, his thoughts louder than the engine's hum. In the back seat, Eli sat quietly, holding the small drawer he'd made earlier at the diner. It showed 3 stick figures, a boy, a mother, and a tall man holding their hands under a blue sky. Marcus glanced at the rearview mirror. Eli, he said softly, are you okay now? Eli nodded. Yeah. Daddy, did you hurt the bad man? Marcus's heart tightened. He looked back at his son, those innocent eyes searching for truth, not revenge. No, he said finally. I didn't. Eli blinked. Why not? He hurt me. Marcus parked the car by the riverbank and turned to face him. Because if I hurt him, I become the same kind of man I'm trying to protect you from. And you, my son, you deserve better than that. Eli smiled faintly, leaning against his father's arm. Mom says you used to be scary. Marcus chuckled quietly. I used to be worse than scary. But sometimes, son, people change for someone they love. He ruffled Eli's curls gently. The boy giggled, the kind of sound that could melt iron. Meanwhile, a few weeks later, Chad Benson's life had changed. He'd left the bars, stopped drinking, and began volunteering at a youth center on the east side, a place where kids like Eli went after school. No one had forced him to. Marcus's words at night had echoed in his head like thunder. He'd looked into that child's eyes, the same eyes he'd made cry, and realized something. The worst kind of pain wasn't the one Marcus could have given him. It was the one he gave himself, knowing he'd become what he once hated. One afternoon, Chad arrived early at the youth center. He was setting up chairs when a familiar voice spoke behind him. Hey, mister. He turned, and there was Eli holding a sketchbook. Oh, hey there, champ, Chad said awkwardly, unsure if the boy even remembered him. Eli smiled shyly. I drew you something. He handed him a small drawing of 2 people shaking hands, one big and one small. Below it, the words, friends now. Chad stared at it for a long time. His throat tightened. You sure you want to be friends with me? Eli nodded. Daddy says everyone deserves a second chance. For a moment, Chad couldn't speak. He knelt down, meeting Eli's eyes. Your dad, he's a good man, you know that? Eli grinned. Yeah, he's the best. Later that evening, Marcus's home. Angela was setting the dinner table when the door opened. Marcus and Eli stepped in, laughing about something. Smells good in here, Marcus said, kissing Angela on the cheek. She smiled softly. You look lighter, happier. He nodded, sitting at the table. maybe for the first time in years. As they ate, Eli proudly showed his drawing. I made a new friend today. Angela looked surprised. Oh, really? Who? Eli smiled. The man from the diner. The fork slipped from her hand. She looked at Marcus. He didn't look angry, just peaceful. He's changing, Marcus said quietly. Maybe we all are. For a long moment, the room filled with warmth, not from the food, but from something deeper, healing. That night, Marcus stood on his balcony, staring at the city lights below. Dante joined him, lighting a cigarette. You ever think about what might have happened if you'd gone through with it? Dante asked. Marcus smirked. Every day. Dante exhaled smoke into the cool night. You're different now, boss. Marcus looked at the stars. Maybe that's what my boy gave me, a second chance. The next morning, Miller's Diner. The town was back to its usual rhythm. People chatted, laughed, and shared coffee. On the counter sat a small, framed photograph, one that Angela had placed there quietly. It showed Marcus, Angela, and Eli smiling together. Underneath it, written in neat handwriting, were 4 simple words. Kindness is strength, too. And for everyone who came through that diner, from the richest man to the roughest stranger, those words said it all.